Hello, welcome to Street Stories. I'm Andrew Dodd. Today we head underground into the tunnels and drains of suburban Melbourne, into the world of the Cave Clan. This is a leafy park in the Melbourne suburb of Hawthorn, where everything is just as you'd expect to find it on a Saturday afternoon. The sun's shining, people are playing tennis, and occasionally someone wanders by walking their dog. But in the corner of the park, near a deep drain, a small group of people are quietly gathering.
G'day, Doug. How are you, mate?
Good. Have you got a torch? Yeah. How you going, Edgar?
Good,
Edgar's the...
This is the Cave Clan, the group that knows Melbourne literally inside out and has comprehensively explored its amazing underground network of tunnels and stormwater drains. And today we're entering one of the most complex drain systems. It's called the Maze. Our guides are three people who go by the clan names of Edgar, Dirge and Doug.
That pipe leads to Lower Maze, and you can't probably hear it from here, but there's a bit of noise. That's a waterfall that we'll probably head down to. This is called Upper Maze, which is the older system, and the pipe that leads to Lower Maze, that's the diversion that they built, which is quite a large pipe.
After scaling a fence and climbing into the drain, we're soon walking up a long rectangular concrete tunnel, which before long branches into three narrower round pipes, one of which takes us under the Hawthorn football ground and into a room where Edgar, the clan's historian, describes the view.
We're now in a concrete room, which for some historic reasons I don't quite understand is called Dodgy Deals. I think it refers to some old graffiti that was on the walls there. We just walked up one of two brick pipes which go under the Hawthorn football ground, and this is a junction of four pipes, the two parallel brick pipes over here on my right. On my left there are two branches which go off in different directions, and they ultimately join up. This is the part of the maze thing about this drain, that it's full of loops and alternative paths.
The drain we've just come out of is this beautifully hand-built circular drain made completely of house bricks.
Yes, that's right. There's a lot of those around. There's some very big ones too. There's one about 15 feet in diameter, which is it's 3 bricks thick, and it's beautifully built. And they laid them into prepared forms, and then they'd use a wooden frame to lay the top bricks on while they set. So they'd stack them up with their mortar, and then when the mortar had set, they could take the frame away, and they'd have a section of round drain. They could keep moving on and doing that. And that was really the only sensible way to make a strong underground drain. Now, of course, we've got reinforced concrete, which is a different thing. Now, these tunnels date back to the 20s, and they're, as you say, they're beautifully made. 1920s, 1930s was a big time for building drains. I think they'd realised that they couldn't leave it just up to the local councils, because the rich councils would build very good drains, the poor councils would build bad drains, and when the water came roaring out of the rich council's good drain into the poor council's small drain, you had a flood. So it was all handed over to the Board of Works, the Melbourne Metropolitan Board of Works, which some people will remember. And sometime around the 20s or 30s, the drains were handed over to it because it had the power to enforce its rules over many councils.
Right now we're under a shop in Glenferrie Road, Hawthorn. You can see sort of the wooden floorboards. You could probably, at this time of day, they're probably still there, so we could probably knock on the floor and communicate with them, but it's probably a good idea that we don't. This is their water supply, so we could also be annoying and turn that tap off, but we won't. And that's the old hatch to get in there, but we don't go in there. And that's that manhole you can hear banging, that's on Glenferrie Road. That's that banging in the background. It's a pretty cool sound.
I assumed that most of these drains would be a good metre or two below the ground, but we're literally really just on ground level now, aren't we?
Well, this is an old canal. It's just been covered. This is like, whereas some they do bore into the ground. Like when we go into the lower maze later on the way out, that's bored through hills and that. So when you look up the manhole, some of them will be like, 10 or 12 metres down. But yeah, this is just once upon a time. Like you can see this bluestone arch behind you. That's going under Glenferrie Road, and then once you get under the road, it would have been just, like if you walk along there, there's a canal, like the one at the entrance. It wouldn't have been underground at all.
Beans and I went and explored this drain called Woody's Tomb, and to get in there you crawl through like a small side pipe and you come out in the main tunnel, and almost as soon as you come out in the main tunnel the drain stops and there's a massive big grill above you, but the grill was sitting in the middle of a lake, and the grill over the top of the lake was so wide apart that birds and ducks and turtles and stuff were always falling in it, and they couldn't get back out again, so they were just starving to death in there. And every time you go in there, you go chase up all the ducks and all the birds, and you try and chase them the whole way down the drain in the pitch blackness just to get them out the other end, so they didn't all starve. And we got the Humane Society.
Yeah,
told them about it and got them down there. It was in the Latrobe Uni grounds, and they fixed up the grills so the birds weren't going in, and went in and did a massive rescue of them all, and that was pretty good because
We do good deeds. We don't
always cut people's food.
Yeah, we don't always just cut people's food.
The time we went into Woody's Tomb, and we just massacred all the birds and turtles that were in there, ate them, and had our satanic ritual and everything.
What about the Brisbane guys that found the hand? Did you hear any more about that?
Oh, yeah.
Full on, they found a hand in a drain.
Yeah, with our powerful torches, we can look way down side pipes. At the moment, I'm looking down a side pipe about 1.4 metres diameter, and I can see probably 50 metres down there. It's a long way. Years ago, when I was an active clanner, I remember Doug said to me, to really get the feeling of drains, you should use a lantern, not a torch. So you can only see where you are right now, and if you want to see what's down there, you've got to go there. I thought that was a really nice image, and I remember that. I still keep my torch and I still shine it down long passageways, but I think he's got a good point there. To explore a drain like this by candlelight or by lantern light would be quite a different experience. The only part that would be visible at all would be just where you are now.
But looking down here, it looks like we are staring into the abyss.
Yes, if you're bothered by the dark or by confined spaces, you don't belong here. But you can see that's a brick pipe there. See the bricks around the edge?
Have you been down this one?
I don't think I have, no. It's a crawl-sized one, so I'm really not all that keen on that. I have done crawl-sized things. I usually wear knee pads to avoid breaking my kneecaps on the concrete surface, especially on the rough bricks.
It's surprising because it seems to be heading downhill, although its entry point is about, a metre above the level of the drain that we're in now. So would it be an overflow from a heavy gush of water down here, or is it actually flowing back into this one?
Well, I think it's part of the maze thing is that there's side pipes that go off and then come back again. And I think this is one that goes off somewhere and comes back again. It probably picks up gutter drains and things on the way, which there's not much water happening at the moment because it's not raining, I hope. And it does in fact turn right, and it comes back into the big tunnel that we came down before. And I noticed as we went past that entrance, there was a note up on the wall. Someone had written up on the wall, this one goes up here, turns left and joins up with the main tunnel. So that's where we are. So those notes can be very helpful. People write up useful things, and sometimes people will say don't bother over a drain, side pipe, meaning it's not interesting. Others will say well worth it or something like that.
When I was a kid, for some reason I was just into tunnels, into the idea of exploring tunnels. I think I was at primary school and I heard that there was a tunnel under the school, so I just went under a shelter shed, portable, and I started digging at lunchtime. It was ridiculous, and that was just what I was like. And then after school I thought I'll try lifting up a grill, and I lifted up a grill, and the sports teacher, Miss Matthews from Fairfield Primary, she said, what are you doing going down that drain? I said, I dropped a tennis ball, and she goes, well, just leave it. And that drain, 10 years later, I was exploring that drain.
And so how did you form the clan then?
The suburb I was brought up in, Northcote, is bordered by the Yarra River, Mary Creek and Darebin Creek. So I'd always check out the creeks, and I found a few tunnels. And I used to explore with friends at school, but none of them would really get into it. And then so eventually I found one guy, Woody, and he was into it, and he started bringing his brother along. But then we started I came up with the idea, let's go and look for tunnels in other areas, and that's how it started growing. And every area we went to, there was the drain rats or the tunnel rats or the sewer rats or drain dwellers, like there was all these other groups, but none of them, they were like us, none of them were travelling. So we started travelling and we started writing messages on the wall. If you want to join up with us, come out to this drain in Northcote, called Northcote Golf Course Darkies. And so then we started doing this, and then we'd go up to our local drain and there'd be messages. Jono and Tomo of the drain rats were here, we're going to be here next week, meet up. So we started meeting groups from different areas, and that's what started off. Then eventually we thought, we'll get a PO box. We got a PO box, and then people got to know what we were, and then it just went bang, this is like about 6 years into it now. So then we started going interstate, and we just put stickers up everywhere interstate, and that's how each group started. We had to find someone who was prepared to spend a lot of time doing it. Then the internet came along, so we set up websites, and now we've got members, some members in Canada and France and America. When I was sitting in the catacombs under Paris, where German soldiers had chased the French resistance, we were walking around these 300 kilometres of tunnels. I was just sitting down there and I just thought, I can't believe I'm here. I started exploring a 6-foot drain under Northcote Tech in 1984, and now it's 2001. I'm sitting under Paris. It was just like the end of my journey, and it always was my mecca.
Now we're standing probably as high in the drain as we're going to go now. It's narrowed a little bit from where we were further down. Give us some sense of what's further up here.
Okay, there's some very interesting features up here. There's a section where it forks into two parts, which go off in apparently quite different directions, about 45 degrees apart. They're different ages. One is what we call a balloon-shaped brick pipe, which is, if you imagine, the top half is semicircular, and then the sides slope in to a much smaller semicircular bottom. That's apparently a good shape for hydraulic flow reasons. The water flows better through that than it does in a round pipe. It goes on for a long time in a basically rectangular drain like we are now. It comes to a section where the ceiling's very low and we have to get down crawl under it, and then it comes up again. And eventually we come out into a small room about the size of a living room, I guess. And we find that the other pipe has joined in. The brick pipe that we didn't go along has joined in. There's a few background noises here. And this little room has a curved wall in it, which prevents the flow going through the brick pipe unless it's quite high. When the room's about half full of water, about 1.5 metres deep, the water will then spill over this wall and go through the brick pipe. And there's two other pipes going on from there, further upstream. And one of them is partly blocked with rubble, broken concrete. I don't know where that came from. The pipe's intact, but there's a lot of broken concrete in it. And at that point, that room is very close to Camberwell Junction. So we've come a long way from Power Street all the way to Camberwell Junction. I can see Andrew here has noticed that the pipe curves. There's a corner about 20 metres away, and he is just busting to know what's around that corner. I think he's got the bug now.
Well, you're dead right, I'm hooked.
Yes.
This is a lot of fun.
Do you want to go out there and have a look?
Let's.
I'll wait for you here.
Edgar, meanwhile, is probably running away down the end of the tunnel. And I'm now standing completely alone in this tunnel. I can't even see Edgar's torchlight. And up in front, I'm probably able to look about 30 metres up the tunnel with my torch, and beyond that is just blackness. It's a bit freaky.
The one good thing about Australia is generally our drains, our stormwater drains and our sewer system are separate, but they still have these things here which are overflows. And basically what happens if a sewer collapses or blocks up, it will flow, you can see that device there, flows through this hatch into the drain, and that triggers a thing, and they know that it's collapsed somewhere ahead of this point. It'll flow in that way. You don't have sewage pouring into the streets and everything. It's hardly ever used because sewers hardly ever collapse or block up, but we have been in drains sometimes when it has happened. The one good thing about Australia is generally our drains, our stormwater drains and our sewer system is separate, but they still have these things here which are overflows. And basically what happens if a sewer collapses or blocks up, it will flow, you can see that device there, flows through this hatch into the drain, and that triggers a thing, and they know that it's collapsed somewhere ahead of this point. It'll flow in that way. You don't have sewage pouring into the streets and everything. It's hardly ever used because sewers hardly ever collapse or block up. But we have been in drains sometimes when it has happened. It's not very nice.
Getting tampons stuck between your toes and sanitary pads around your ankles and such. Starla swam out of a drain under the Opera House and actually had a bit of like toilet paper on her chest. It's not the nicest thing to know that you've been swimming through. But
Sydney seems to have a lot more poo in their drains than Melbourne.
It's so true.
We're not putting shit on Sydney or anything, you understand?
No, they'd be the first to admit it. There's actually one guy, Silogen, who's like, you know, probably at the moment he's the keenest. Well, you know, he does so much for the Sydney Cave Clan, and we just call him the poo man from Sid Clan, because we've been in there just to have a look, but once we figured out their sewer overflows, we don't really worry about him too much. But he'd be like in there climbing down, and he's got a Scottish accent. There's quite a bit of poo down here, but it's not too bad. I might just go for a weed. You know, like he's just really into.
But they would be the hardcore clanners, wouldn't they? The ones who went through sewers.
Well, generally we don't.
More stupidity, I think, than anything to do with being hardcore. Being hardcore, you know, get on your hands and knees and crawl up tunnels and things, but
Like
wading through poo and trying not to fall over, that's pretty silly.
When I came along and joined the clan, the membership was very much young men, about 18 to 20, and definitely working class. I hope they'll forgive me for saying that. I was the first much older person to join the clan, and we struggled with that a bit, but they accepted me. And I was delighted at the end of the first year with the clan that I was voted Best First Year Explorer at their awards night, which was a vote by the general membership of the clan. So that was what I wanted, and that was great. Later, actually the same time I joined the clan, a woman called, who's known as Alien, that was her drain name, she joined, and she did some excellent drain exploring and became a drain legend. So the old demographic was creaking a bit now. We had old guys and women doing serious exploring. A guy called Krishna came along and became an awesome drain explorer, and they later revealed he was bisexual. This broke down the remaining barriers in the clan, and I think now it's pretty much open to everyone. I think the membership has grown up quite a lot, and there's a lot of tolerance to past members, no matter who they are.
We're in a tunnel called Yarra Tunnel, and it's got like a series of really big waterfalls in it, like, you know, probably 20 feet high each of them, and we're in sort of the middle of a few of them. There was one downstream of us, one upstream of us, and there was probably about 10 smaller waterfalls, and we were doing some filming and it started to rain a couple of suburbs away. And the thing is when you get flash flooding in a creek or a river, or like that Swiss canyoning disaster from a few years back, you don't really get much warning, but in a drain, you actually can hear the water coming for quite a while, like sometimes 10, 15 minutes. So we could hear this water, and each time it went over one of these little series of steps and then drops and then waterfalls, it got louder and louder. So we started panicking, and we realised it's getting that close that we're going to be between waterfalls, and that's the last thing we wanted to be, because they were like quite a few minutes apart. And we thought if we're going along and then a wave does come, it'll take us over the waterfall, and the waterfall was quite large, a big drop. So we started trying to get out of a manhole we got to a waterfall. We're trying to get out rather than try and make it past the next waterfall, and we're all standing in a ladder, and it was just this big square manhole. I couldn't get it off, and in the meantime the water's coming over one ledge, and it's like, and then over another one, and then another one. It got to the stage where we couldn't hear each other talking. We knew it was going to hit any second, and then I just got this like big adrenaline rush, and you sort of get up on the ladder and you use your back, and I just pushed, and the manhole the seal gave, and then light sort of poured in through the crack. And I was just looking down, I could just see these guys, and they were just, the expressions on their faces, just total fear, like, please, please. And when the manhole got off, I sort of forced it up, so I was already exhausted from trying to do it, just for like 5 minutes continuously trying. And I got it up, and as I pushed it up on my shoulders, in front of me was this like Mercedes coming towards me. But luckily it was right in front of a stop sign, so it was slowing down anyway. And I was just looking, I couldn't put it back down, because if I put it back down, I wouldn't have had the energy to do it again. So I just flipped it up, and we got out, and then about like in the movies, like within seconds, the wave came over and just was smashing into the waterfall that we were on. I would have been all right because I was up the ladder, I was high enough, and the next person probably would have been okay. But the third guy, he would have had to climb up the ladder, and we would have all had to been hanging on the one spot because he would have been knocked off the ladder for sure. And we got out, and then we pulled the video camera out, and we just filmed the manhole. You could see this water like pouring over, and we were just like, shit, how close was that?
We're under Hawthorn somewhere. I'm not so sure of the location. I've not been living in Melbourne for too long, so yeah.
We seem to be dropping quite a bit here.
Yeah, it does. It drops down a lot deeper. When we get to the waterfall, you'll see a huge drop, which is maybe, how deep do you think that is?
4 or 5 metres.
4 or 5 metres. It's pretty deep, yeah.
The roar is coming up the tunnel now. How far are we from the waterfall?
I think we're maybe another 3 or 4 minutes walk till we get down there.
How did you get into clanning?
I got into clanning up in Sydney through a guy I was at school with, and he just took me down a drain one day, and from there it was just all over. I actually moved down here with a guy I met in the cave clan, and yeah, it's all interbred. Cave clan is messy.
And there aren't many women, are there, in the clan?
There's a fair few women in the clan. Not nearly as many as there are guys, but enough of us to put them in order.
What was it about clanning that made you hooked?
God, that's the question. I don't know. I think I like the quiet and the dark, and just the fact that there's nobody else around, and you feel almost safe that it's your own space, and it's only you and your friends. There's nothing else there. I like the solitude of it all. I also like the exploring aspect. Like, this is just a drain, obviously it's just straight, but some things you explore, like bunkers for example, there's lots of different tunnels and lots of different paths you can take. I like the whole exploring factor, like actually discovering new things.
We're getting closer, obviously.
Yeah, it's getting a lot louder. Not sure how much further it is.
It sounds deafening, but is it just this trickle of water that's falling over the waterfall to cause that noise?
Yeah, it's not much water, just this, which is a foot wide, not very deep at all, and yeah, it all just sort of piles up, and you can see how large the drop is, and there's actually a huge pool of water at the bottom of the waterfall, so it's the noise of all this trickle landing in the pool down the bottom.
And you were saying about keeping the blokes in order in the clan. Is it a very blokey thing?
I guess it is a very blokey thing in that the girls that are involved in the cave clan, they're not really girly girls. They're not, afraid to get dirty or break a nail, but we've got a section of the clan called the Clan Girls that we've been trying to promote to get a few more girls involved, and we'll do a few things, get dressed up and do a few silly things every now and again just for the guys, but it's basically just trying to get some more girls involved.
And how different is the Sydney clan from the Melbourne clan?
Sydney clan's pretty different. We've actually got a bit of a rivalry thing going on. It's just a bit of a joke, but Sydney clan are a lot more internet orientated and a lot more sort of, I don't know, I guess nerdy and geeky with it all, and Melbourne clan are a bit more laid back and like to explore with beers, whereas Sydney clan are really, really involved, and instead of just going out to do a drain, they'll go out all night and be going for 12 hours, whereas Melbourne clan, they'll probably maybe do a drain and go to the pub.
The bottom of the waterfall is bluestone, because if it was concrete, the water falling continuously into one spot would just erode it away, and whereas the bluestone don't erode from the pressure of the water. The reason the bluestone goes so far back is when this is flooding, obviously the water's going to be flying way out further. So yeah, this is a waterfall. It's not the biggest one or anything like that, but it's just a waterfall. Well, actually, up until a few years ago, probably thanks to Edgar, there never used to be a ladder here. We used to they just have ropes hanging off here. But Edgar wrote to Melbourne Water and said there's no ladder there, and this is an official thing to say that if anyone gets hurt there, I'll bring it up.
So what happened when you did that, Edgar?
Well, to my absolute astonishment, they installed a ladder quite properly. I was really pleased about that.
A lot of the people that come into the clan, they come into it and they get this energy about them. It's what we always say about the new explorers, and they go crazy. They're out in a drain every day. They'll be doing a new drain, and those sort of people, they normally burn out, and after a few years, they seem to sort of disappear again. But yeah, they do. They burn out. But there's a lot of people. Like, I've got a lot of really close friends in the clan, and we've been around for like years and years and years. And it's one of those things that's in our blood. We'll never stop doing it. So I've been over to New Zealand exploring just to do drains, and Dougo was over in Europe last year doing the catacombs under France, and in Vienna, like, you go overseas to do a drain. It sounds a bit crazy, but it's just in your blood. That's what you think. That's what you see. When you first start in the cave clan, you'll be walking along the street and you'll see a grill, and every gutter box you sort of look down in and go, oh, I wonder what's in there. And every building, you'll be, I wonder how we can get in there. And it's definitely gets in your blood.
Last year, almost a year ago to the day, one of the guys in the cave clan, his name's Prowler. He's like the nicest guy you'll ever meet. Like, you can't help but like him.
He's a champion.
And his wife was walking taking the 3 kids to school, and she had a heart attack and died. So when Christmas came around, which was like 5 months later, we thought, maybe we can collect some money and buy the kids a present. And it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but we ended up getting, buying them a PlayStation 2 because they loved PlayStation. And they wanted a PlayStation 2 but couldn't really afford it. So we got them a PlayStation 2 and about 8 games, an extra controller, and a memory card. Everyone was just like giving $50, and that's just something that, from my personal point, like, sometimes when shit like that happens, I just think, cave painting is a good thing, apart from the exploring side of it, and we found so much cool stuff to explore, that when you do stuff like that, it's quite touching, and you realise it's got more than just the people explore tunnels. It is sort of more like, the clan thing, the family thing, like, you do get pretty close to people. I'm going to cry, I've got something in my throat.
We're in a huge pipe. It's about 5.5 metres diameter. It comes out into the Yarra. This is where this train finally ends after all these adventures. It comes out into the Yarra, and just around this corner we'll be able to see the Yarra and see one of the bridges out there. There it is. Isn't that beautiful? When you follow the flow and see the glow, that's the glow.
This is a wonderful view, isn't it? It's the mixture of seeing daylight and also this wonderful river view. We can look out and we're seeing the bottom pylons of a massive bridge over the Yarra.
And we can see bicyclists on the boulevard bike track as well. So after all that underground dirty yucky stuff, here's reality still out here. It hasn't gone away.
And this is where the network of drains ends.
Yes, that's right. All the branches of Maze converge to this point, and the water flows out here into the river.
That is a great view out there.
Gorgeous. Yeah. So we say a fond farewell to reality, and we go back to the mighty room, which is one of the biggest underground rooms in Melbourne. It's essentially a plumbing fitting where 2 huge round pipes join and connect to the very even larger round pipe of room.
And that's where we leave the Cave Clan as they disappear back into the drains of the maze. Thanks to the members of Cave Clan, Edgar, Dirge and Doug. Technical production, Russell Thompson and Heather Jarvis. I'm Andrew Dodd. Thanks for listening.